So, I've known for a while now that I'm basically a gigantic nerd. I mean, to be fair, the evidence does kind of point towards it. But I'm warning you about this now because if the content of today's video is anything to go by, I'm about to hammer the final nail into my social coffin, as it were. How am I going to do that, I hear you ask? Well, I'm going to do it by talking about French literature. Okay, so at first glance, the phrase French literature doesn't sound at all as interesting as, say, the life and times of one of the most popular singers of the last century. But here's the thing. When I talk about French literature here, I don't mean Balzac or Molière or Camus or any of the people you might have heard of. I mean old French literature. Really old. No, older than that. Yeah, older a bit more. That's it. Medieval. So, what exactly is medieval French literature? Well, to put it simply, it's anything published in the northern bit of what we call today France between about 1050 and about 1400. At one end, it's bookended by La Vie de Sainte Alexis, who is a saint, and is basically her life story and all the exciting things that she did. At the other end, in about 1400, you start to get the beginning of history written in the vernacular. I'm going to be looking at a small part of one of these things, Arthurian romance. That's right, Arthur, the legendary King Arthur, hero of the whole land, saviour of Camelot, pursuer of the Holy Grail. So Arthurian's a pretty easy word to understand, to be honest, basically anything to do with King Arthur. The word romance, though, is a bit trickier in this context. It doesn't just mean lovey-dovey snogging or anything along those lines. Instead, it literally means anything written en roman, in the vernacular. This is why in modern French, the word roman means novel, but at this point it basically referred to anything that wasn't written in Latin, so that is to say, in the vernacular, French. Many of these great Arthurian romances are when we see for the first time some of the stock characters and stock ideas that we keep recurring to throughout the rest of Arthurian literature. So, for example, Lancelot is mentioned for the first time in Le Chevalier de la Charrette, the Knight of the Cart, and the Holy Grail appeared for the first time in Le Comte du Graal. Both of these stories were written by the same man, Chrétien de Troyes. The most annoying thing about Chrétien de Troyes is we really don't know all that much about him, because in the context of medieval France, saying you're Christian, or Chrétien, and from Troyes, is not really that easy a way of narrowing things down, to be all that honest. In fact, there's a lot of debate about whether he even existed at all, but that's another story for another video. So today we're going to be looking at one of his many verse romances, Eric et Enide. So Eric is a knight at the court of King Arthur. One day, while he's out hunting with the rest of the court, he sees a very interesting looking knight go past, a very chivalrous knight, a very intriguing kind of knight. So he immediately goes to follow this knight, at which point he is rebuffed by a dwarf. A side note, by the way, just a quick pointer here, medieval French literature is not going to win any awards for political correctness anytime soon. So, for example, dwarves are almost always evil. As you can imagine, Eric is not particularly pleased when this dwarf flips the bird at him, and so he follows the knight in secret as he goes through a forest. The pair of them wind up at a tournament, in the course of which Eric vanquishes the dastardly knight and, of course, falls hopelessly in love with a young maiden, Enide. The two of them go back to King Arthur's court and, surprise surprise, get married. After a few weeks, though, Enide begins to notice a few changes in her husband. Basically, since he got married to her, he's lost a lot of interest in actually doing any fighting, which is great if you're a lady, less good if you're a knight with a reputation to maintain and you don't want to leave the bedroom for one reason or another. She tells Eric about all these rumours, at which point he gets very annoyed and so decides to go off and clear his name. Here begins a series of very long and very convoluted adventures, over the course of which Eric tries to clear his name and prove himself as a knight by showing how much of a dude he is. In the course of about 3,000 lines, he manages to achieve quite a lot. In short, he defeats 7 robbers, kills 2 giants, saves a man from being cut to pieces, seemingly comes back to life and slices his captor in 2, overcomes an ancient curse, learns of this ancient curse, and just generally acts like a guy with too much testosterone in his system. Thankfully, once he's done all this, Eric has suitably proved that he is a worthy knight and can go back to his wife again, as well as presumably having a sleep and some paracetamol for that slight headache he picked up along the way. Now, this may be where that particular romance ends, but our mate Chrétien de Troyes is just getting started at this point. If I had any more time, I'd talk about other sort of stories that were written in the Middle Ages, such as the chansons de geste, these very famous stories of very famous men doing very famous deeds. Unfortunately, I don't, because I need to go and edit this video and sleep and, well, breathe. But don't worry, I may have gone all medieval on you, but I haven't forgotten the need for a good pun to wind this video up, in respect of which, hello, I'm Edward, and I hope this has given you air freshener perspective. Just a quick note while I'm editing this actually. Emily, thank you very much for that video on Julie Andrews. I loved it. It was absolutely brilliant. And thank you for the South Pacific reference in the title as well. I'm a big fan of South Pacific. I actually was reminded after watching that video to go and look up some old Mary Poppins stuff on the internet, and I found, wait for it, French Mary Poppins. Now, bit of a nerdy moment for me there, but French Mary Poppins, very excited. So thank you very much.